1962, and they both deceased, and I've moved back in the house. I've got to rent a house across the street, and I've got, my son lives straight across the street. He's got 2 little grandsons, and I got 2 small great-grandsons. And there's no way that they can cross the street on their own. Even when they get 7, 8 years old, I wouldn't trust them because the traffic is bad. And I'd like to know, he keeps saying single-family dwellings. I'd like to know if they're going to sell these houses or if these are government subsidized rental units or something like that.
We certainly asked that question, Mr. McQuillan, but it may be more appropriate at the next level, but it's not necessarily appropriate here for the subdivision. But I'm not saying that that's not. I understand the city councils, if it goes to the city council, they have a much more expansive realm of what they look at.
Right.
Whereas we are hemmed up by what they passed in Appendix A.
Right. And one other thing, the detention ponds, is there going to be a fence around it, or can a little child take off when the water's high and decide to go swimming in there and drown or something? You know, that's something else if it's not fenced in. And the parking for the community center, nothing has been said about the community center that they're going to put right on front of the place. You know, it doesn't show on the little plat that I had that there was any parking there. That's all I've got.
All right, any questions for Mr. McQuillan by members of the commission? Thank you, Mr. McQuillan.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Brian Kalia. I live at 711 St. Maurice Lane. The only thing I'd like to add to all this about the drainage and the traffic is the zoning commission over the years, since I've been there since 2000, has denied every business, housing project, anything that has come up on St. Maurice Lane, and has denied it for substandard road. And I'm not the only one that's done this. Obviously, Mr. Walker's done the same thing. And we've had people that tried to put duplexes in. Substandard roads could not handle the traffic. Nothing has changed.
All right. Does that give any questions for anybody from Mr. Calais, is it?
Kalia.
Kalia.
Yes, sir.
Can't read my own handwriting. All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming down.
Tyler Murkison. I live at 203 Sutton Drive. A point of reference on this map. My house is about right here. This is the corner of my property. I have some questions for the developer that if they've been addressed outside this meeting, I'm not aware of it. If you look at if you could pull up their plot subdivision, the plot that they provided, the survey.
It looks like this.
Talking about this, Tyler?
Yes.
Okay.
You will notice, the street continues right here. My question is there future plans for future phases? And if so, has that been brought to the commission, or are we only talking about this one phase?
The only thing that before us today is the rezoning of the re-subdivision of 12.45 acres. Is that it?
That's correct.
That's the only, it's my understanding that's the only thing they have an option on. So even if they have plans past that, they have no ability to go forward with them unless the owner of the property would sell it to them. The remaining 28.654 acres.
Okay. And then also, if you go back to the first photo of the satellite photo, I'd like to ask another question. This circle here is the proposed subdivision, right?
That's correct.
I drove this property Sunday in my there are survey sticks here, 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 they're all over. I'd like to know if that has something to do with this development, and why they would have to survey. There's actually, if anybody's been back there, there's survey sticks on this side of the road by the ballpark. One here, here, and here. And I'm just curious of what, if that has anything to do with this project.
You're gonna need to get up closer to the mic, Mr. Murphy. You don't have the lavalier on?
No.
Clip that on you if you wanna move around. Or sit still, what's your choice?
So, like, again, I noticed that there were survey stakes on the corner of my property up here. It says survey number 43, stake number 43. It's not on my property, it's actually on the corner of the ballpark parking lot. And there's stakes here, 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 and they go down here. So is the development stopping here, or is it stopping here, or is it stopping up here? I'm not, that's what I'm confused about.
It appears to me from the plat to be stopping about 50 feet short of that drainage ditch that comes
Okay,
across.
so actually, for everybody that's here, this is not accurate. It goes way up here. Okay, I just want everybody to be aware of that. All the way up to here. So this is not accurate. This ditch right here, I looked at it, is going to be the primary drainage ditch, I assume, for the subdivision, correct?
We'll ask that question.
Yes, I'd like to know. The reason why I bring that up, I live on a property that has two of these main drainage ditches, one in the front and one in the back. The only reason these ditches are clean is because the farmers spray them. When the farmers stop spraying them, they grow up and they get congested and logs and trash and there's no drainage. I'm very concerned about that because I don't have any flooding issues now, but in the front of my property, I've allowed the farmers to build easements through those ditches so they can cross over. Well, not on my property, but on somebody else's. But what it does, they build it up high enough where it holds water, mainly all year long. Anybody's welcome to come to my house, and you can see that now. It's grown up. There's trees and everything else in it. And it's a snake pit full of every kind of rodent and animal you can think of. I, too, am not opposed to this development. I'm just opposed to the location. I just don't think it's the best place to put this, considering all the other problems that we have on St. Maurice. You've got 3 schools, 1, 2, 3, right there. And then this road, I wouldn't ride my bicycle down. I'm just saying, it's bad. So I have another question. So I want to know, do they have plans for future development, number 1?
Number 2 is the survey stakes
Number-
everywhere.
number
Number
2
3
is-
is the primary drainage ditch as
Right.
depicted on there.
Number 3, and then, as far as I think Ms. Janice brought it up, I'm just curious with the houses themselves, as a banker in the economic development, who will have the ability to buy these houses? Is it anybody? Can any of these people out here buy one, or is it based off some certain standards? And if it is, who finances them? Is it going to be allowed to be financed by local banks, or is it a lease-to-own type deal? 3 years in, and then they buy it. I'm curious on if the financing will be available to local banks.
All right. We'll be sure and ask. Any questions for Mr. Markison before he sits down?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Markison.
tell a joke. I got to break it one. It's my son's favorite joke. What do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhino? Elephano.
Well, please.
All right. Anyone else Anyone else wants to speak in opposition of the application by Roanoke for Glendale subdivision? Yes, Mr. Sir, state your name and address for the record.
Glenn Sears. I own the house at 625 St. Maurice Lane. And my only question to the developer is, I'd like to know where their other properties are and see how they have come along since they've been built.
All right. All right, any questions? I don't assume that, got any more questions for Mr. Sir's comment? Anyone else want to speak in opposition to the application by Roanoke Development? Just a second. Zach, hold on. Zach, hold on. We got somebody that, we hadn't got somebody that had a chance to talk yet. We're not batting around the lineup yet. Mr. Jones, please state your name and address for the record.
Carl Jones, 417 St. Clair. This is a question to the developer. How does this project differ from the ones that you have done in this state already? New roads, Faraday, and the one attempted in Shreveport off of Line Avenue. Those projects were rentals, and it was low-income housing on the affordable workforce housing. So how does this project differ from what you've been doing? Similar to the same questions other people have asked.
All right.
$225,000 house, that's a nice house. 1,500 square feet, 60-foot lot. That's not the direction to go. Any questions?
All right, Mr. Jones.
One more statement.
Sure.
After 15 years of rent, with the tax credits, do you get to buy the house in 15 years or 3 years? I think we need to be transparent about what is happening in our community at every level of government, every level of government. And why do we have to have out-of-towners from Mississippi to come in here and have the financing to do what other contractors cannot do in this community? What is the secret? We'd like for you to share it with us.
Any questions for Mr. Jones? All right. Anyone else want to speak in opposition to the application of Roanoke Development? All right. Mr. W., you about missed the window. If I called on everybody like the school teacher, we'd be here till midnight.
I know. Jimmy W., 1014 East 5th Street. I just wanted to go on record as letting you know I oppose this, not just me, but the 450 petitions that you have, plus probably over 500, I guess, plus a room full of people. And a lot of people and citizens that live in our community that would be opposed to this that are unable to attend to this. So I just want to go on record that I oppose it and have a lot of backing on it.
And I presume that you oppose it for the similar reasons stated by Mr. McCain and Mr. Boyd, is that correct?
Just about everyone that's spoken here, I do. I would like to bring up, over the past several years, I can't remember the dates, but about 12 to 15 years ago, there was a proposal for a subdivision, if I remember correctly, over across from St. Mary's off East 5th Street.
There was?
And I think there was a lot of the opposition on that was the same as what this was, with traffic and drainage, traffic, and what have you. One of the main oppositions came from emergency, police, fire, what have you, with the one-way in, one-way out, because I think what they had planned on doing was going a one-way in, one-way out off of Lorne Avenue. Williams. And then so that was the big deal about being able to get fire and rescue in there. One of the main reasons that shut down. More recently, so that was one that didn't get rezoned because of that. Not the only reason, but for all the others. But another recent one was the one that was there over in Roselawn area at the plantation over there, which was a one-way in, one-way out with a cul-de-sac.
Well, I will tell you this, Mr. W., that was never a compliant application. It refused to connect to Oma Street, so it wouldn't comply with the
Right.
regulations there. While I echo what you're gonna say, I want to compare apples to apples. They never could get it to work.
I understand, okay, I understand that. But with the one-way in, one-way out, cul-de-sac turnaround, fire, rescue, police, and what have you.
Well, but the issue there was, you may or may not be aware of it, in our regulations, if you have a public street,
Right.
you have to connect to it. And the developer on the Roseline project refused to. And that's the salient point that I made at the very beginning, is that I had Ms. Rock look at School Drive or Dalmy Drive or whatever it's called in there, and it's not a public street for the
Okay.
purposes of that. And I don't want to,
Fair
I'm not
enough.
trying to
Fair enough.
derail you, but that
that's
was
fair
never,
enough.
that was not a compliant
But I still
application.
stand by all the other reasons,
and
with
the
the exception
concerns.
of that one, that it was denied because of traffic.
Yes.
Because of
That was a huge concern.
drainage and congestion and
Yes.
high density, the way it was.
That's
the way it was
correct.
presented. Anyway, that's what I've got.
All right. Any questions for Mr. W.? Thank you, Mr. W.
Tyler invited everybody to his house if they wanted to come out. What time are we gonna eat? That's the night. You better call your wife and let her know.
Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application of Roanoke Development? You've already had your run, Mr. Middendorf. We can't start batting around the lineup unless you can give me something in 90 seconds or less.
Oh, absolutely.
And I apologize if this is unnecessary or redundant, but I wanted to just piggyback on Tyler's question about plans for future development. Just to make sure that the question is framed in the right way, are there current plans, or have they been drawn up, or anything of a concrete nature like that, but have you had discussions with the property owner, or discussions amongst the primary members of your operation, or have you even dreamed about the possibility of doing an additional development? And if not, if the answer to that question is no, then why would you have a short street built onto the end of that cul-de-sac with a street name? It seems rather obvious that there definitely are plans for future development. So then we're not really just talking about the impact of these 36 lots on St. Maurice Lane, on emergency services and all the other things that we talked about. We're talking about potentially a lot